Hi, you knew today's thought. And well, before we get into today's thought, just a bit of news, which maybe you didn't hear about it the way the mainstream media covers stories. So let me give it to you in case you haven't heard about it. But the House Oversight Committee just released the third memo based on bank records, actual bank records of transactions. We're now up to $20 million paid to the Biden family from Russia, Kazakhstan, Ukraine, and more. So we're now up to $20 million, and I predict more will come. So it's pretty inevitable. I would be surprised if we're not eventually moving to an impeachment inquiry. And if we have one, I should give you the difference between an impeachment and an impeachment inquiry, just in case you don't know the differences, because everybody talks about whether we have Mitch McConnell saying we shouldn't. The House, Congress should. The House should not impeach Joe Biden, and because of the two impeachments of Donald Trump, because that's too many impeachments for some reason. Never mind. It's only the facts of the cases that matter. We now know that the two impeachments of Donald Trump were bogus. The first one was supposedly for some corrupt motive behind inquiring about, it was characterized by Democrats as asking the president of Ukraine to get dirt on Joe Biden because rumors of Burisma and all that. Well, now we know that's true. They weren't rumors, and the president is the chief law enforcement officer of the country, and so it's his job. He did his job. That's what happened. So that's bogus number one. Impeachment number one. Bogus number two. Impeachment was for January 6th because he was being impeached for. And this happened after the impeachment was after he left office, and it was the first one took the inquiry. We're talking about the inquiry before the impeachment. That inquiry took months. It took months. The one for the second one just took a few days, which is ridiculous. I mean, look how much time the House is taking, and for Biden. Before they even start an impeachment inquiry, because they want to be sure and have the facts on their side and only go forward if the facts are on their side, as seems increasingly likely. But the reason we know that impeachment was bogus was because he was supposed to have the impeachment charged him with inciting the January 6th riot, which was not an insurrection. We know that's bogus now, the impeachment, for the simple reason that Jack Smith indicted. His second indictment of Donald Trump was for supposedly trying to overturn the election, but he was not charged with inciting a riot or trying to overthrow whatever it was in the second impeachment. He was not charged with that. So if the Jack Smith, we know, I mean, there's no doubt in my mind they're going back to laws. They're charging him the second indictment. It's under a law that dates back to 1879, shortly after the Civil War, and it was intended for the Ku Klux Klan. So you see that, and the first indictment is based on the Espionage Act, an act that dates back, was passed in 1917 under the Woodrow Wilson administration, which even liberals, until now, of course, claimed was unconstitutional. But of course, anything goes when the target, and he is a target. That's all this is about, Donald Trump. But we're getting closer to an impeachment inquiry because you're having all these bank records, and so there may be, this is a prediction I made before, we may have another indictment or some other news coming out about Donald Trump. Well, we know we can be pretty sure he's going to be charged in Georgia for supposedly trying to overturn the election in Georgia. So the timing of that will be interesting, because another Hunter Biden crony, and I guess we could say Joe Biden crony, because they're all in it together, he's scheduled. He's going to be testifying pretty soon. His testimony is predicted to be very damaging because he was the money guy. So like these 20 20 shell corporations that were set up to launder this money. We don't know what any of these corporations do. They have no business purpose except to illegally, unlawfully funnel money to the Bidens. And you have to remember also that Joe Biden and Hunter Biden shared a bank account, and that Hunter Biden, it's on the laptop, emails about him paying his father's mortgage and other expenses. So the point is, well, Joe Biden didn't get any money. If they have a joint bank account and the money goes into the bank account, then Joe Biden gets it too. But I don't want to get ahead of myself. An impeachment inquiry will bring all this out, and that's what the subject is today. Why an impeachment inquiry is necessary, and it may not lead to an impeachment, even, and this is important, even if the facts show undeniably that Biden is guilty of bribery. And there's also the possibility of him being, because if he did things for, say, a Chinese businessman or a Ukrainian oligarch, such as getting a prosecutor fired, he's representing them, and if he's representing them, then that's covered by the FARA, the Foreign Agents Representation Act. So that's another another thing that he could be in trouble for. But the point I want to make is you have to remember Nixon. People think that Nixon was impeached, but he was not impeached. That's important to remember. He was never impeached, but there was an impeachment inquiry. And you can tell I'm old enough to have seen it. I watched it on TV. So they held the impeachment inquiry on TV, and the evidence that came out was such that the Republicans, such as Howard Baker, the prominent Republicans in the Senate at that time, went to Richard Nixon and said, if you don't resign, you're going to be impeached and probably removed from office. So he resigned, and that's what could happen that would be the best thing that would happen with Joe Biden, is he would simply resign when the facts come out, because if the facts are as damning as it seems like they may be, then that puts Senate Democrats in a real bind, because if the House impeaches, there will have to be a trial in the Senate, and a 2/3 vote would be needed to remove Biden from office, and it's going to be very hard for Democrats to take that vote. So everybody is predicting, which I don't necessarily believe will be the case, that the Senate would never convict. But if the evidence is so compelling that it becomes obvious, if they don't convict, that it's just political, that they're just refusing to remove from office a president where the evidence is clear cut. So the more likely possibility, in my view, is that they'll go to Biden and say, well, cite health concerns. You're in your 80s. You'll be 81 at the time. So going on 82. I forget his exact birthday. Maybe he'll already be 82. And you say to him, well, there's your excuse, and you should just resign. So we'll see what happens. And then there's actually maybe even Republicans wouldn't convict, remove from office, because Kamala Harris becomes president then. So they just make the point is, we have a right to know, and that's what gets us to the impeachment inquiry, because there's another problem there's another reason for the inquiry, which is just to get the facts out. You have to, if there's an impeachment inquiry, gives the House, the Congress, powers that investigatory powers that they don't have right now. They get extra powers. And one of the powers, and I should mention this, I mentioned this in the past, that there's a celebrity celebrity lawyer, very prominent legal expert who appears on TV even sometimes. And I've had the honor or the privilege or just the good luck of being able to correspond with him. So I've asked, the most I'll get usually is a one sentence or a yes or no question, but I could get an answer, to a legal question that I have from a real expert, because I am not a lawyer, thank God. So the question I wanted to ask now we're going to talk about Chris Wray, because this gets to the heart of the matter. Chris Wray, the head of the FBI, he's been brought a couple of times, at least before Congress, before various House committees, and asked questions about, you're supposed to be investigating, like the laptop. Why did you sit on it? You knew it was real, it was authentic, but you didn't say anything at the time. Why Twitter? We now know, speaking to Twitter, that an FBI agent confirmed that the laptop was real, and then another FBI agent in on the call, a conference call, just jumped in and said no comment, no comment, no comment. So all these questions to ask, and then the questions of what are you finding? What about this FD 1023 report with the confidential human source whom they've trusted enough to use for 10 years and pay upwards of $200,000. So he talked about $5 million being paid to Joe Biden, $5 million to Hunter Biden. Why? What have you done about that? Why have you, what's the progress? Are you investigating this at all? And it's an obvious guess that they aren't. But Chris Wray's answer every time I heard the hearings, he said, because I have a home office, so I can keep this stuff on while I'm working. And just about every question, every important question, he would just say, well, I can't comment because it's an ongoing investigation. It's an ongoing investigation. I can't say anything about it. And he would just refuse to answer the question. So my question to this, to the legal expert I'm talking about, I said, these extra powers that the House would have in an impeachment inquiry, could Chris Wray and others who are stonewalling, can he be compelled to answer these questions that he's refusing to answer? And I got a one-word answer back, and the answer was yes. So that's one reason. And to get documents also, documents that the Justice Department is refusing to turn over. When you're talking about impeachment, that's the Constitution. It trumps everything, no pun entitled, Trump. But that, at the very least, the American people have a right, we have a right to know all the facts, to know the truth, to have these questions answered that are not being answered, and to see these documents, provided that they're not classified, and they're not. This FD 1023, the FBI, they first, that's not classified. We have a right to see that document. And even now, some names are redacted, but he was threatened with contempt of Congress. Chris Wray was. The FBI at first denied that the document even existed, but Senator Chuck Grassley, he came around and said, the document exists, I've seen it. And he could talk about what's in the document because he's seen it, so the FBI had to fess up and they turned over the document. But you see, they are just dragging their feet and avoiding answering any question. An impeachment inquiry sweeps all that aside. It sweeps it all aside, and we will finally get the facts. And that is why, even regardless of whether it leads to an impeachment, I mean, we will know, and we may decide that, nothing to see here, move along, or by time the fact that the impeachment inquiry is over, we would say, well, the election will be in a few months, and the polls show Biden losing, so we'll just wait and see what happens. I don't know. The point is that the impeachment inquiry is absolutely necessary, and I predict that it's going to happen when Congress gets back, because the evidence is just so compelling, and I have, and especially more compelling, after Eric Schwerin testifies, I believe, because he was a BFF, a best friend forever of Hunter Biden, and they had a falling out. So of some kind. So there is no love lost anymore between Eric Schwerin and Hunter Biden. So he may spill all the beans. And there's one more thing. There's a cell phone that it's in one of the laptop emails, an email instructing Hunter and Joe Biden to get a separate, what they call a burner phone, which is what drug dealers use. So instead of having an account with AT&T or whatever, they go to Best Buy, they buy a phone, and they use you put money on it yourself, and you use it. When you're done, you throw it away. And that number of that phone was given to a reporter, John Solomon, who called the actual number, and Joe Biden answered. So there's a possibility that phone is going to be subpoenaed. I can't imagine it not being subpoenaed, since they have the number, they know it exists, and you have John Solomon to tell, if they needed to testify that he actually called the number, and you'll probably have Eric Schwerin confirming the phone too. So if that phone, if Joe does a Hillary Clinton and takes a hammer and smashes the phone to pieces and then doesn't produce it, well, what'll that tell you? And that's all I want to tell you today. That's my multiple thoughts. Thanks for stopping by. If you could subscribe, that would really be great. And I got a few subscribers lately, and you're all welcome. I'm glad you're here. Whether you agree with me or disagree with me, there's a whole comment section to say whatever you want. And maybe you can think of something to call me that no one's called me already. It's a tough road to hoe, but maybe you can do it. And I guess if you could come back and see me again, I'll share the video with anyone you think would like it, but benefit from it. But come back and see me again. We'd love to see all of you again. And until I do see all of you again, bye.